First and foremost, my very, very serious apologies to you for these breaks that are coming in the course that we are supposed to do. And like I told you, this is actually supposed to be done in the department uh, as coursework, but there's nobody teaching you that. And I believe there was uh, a 4-hour session on research methodology by somebody who apparently didn't know much about research methodology. So if you have to write an exam, by the way, in research methodology. Okay, because the UGC insists that you have to write an exam at the end of the coursework in research methodology and in a paper related to the subject that you are working on for your PhD thesis. So what are you working on, Maria? So this is soft power, cultural relations between India and Latin American countries, and that's all you're working, right? All those
Yes,
things.
right.
Yeah, so, well, I'm your supervisor. So the onus of teaching that course falls on me. So you tell me, what would you like to do? Would you like to do it as international relations? Or would you like to do it as culture studies? Or would you like to do it as something that is there in, a combination of international relations and culture studies? You don't have to tell me now. You think about it and tell me, and I will be taking, because I am your supervisor. I am, right? So,
Yes, you are.
yeah, so that responsibility falls on me. So you have to find some way of doing it. And Daniel, good evening, sir. Are you there, Daniel?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Daniel, I am only your supervisor, right?
Yes, sir.
So what exactly, I don't remember your subject of your thesis. Could you just quickly tell me in a minute?
Sorry, sir.
On what are you working for your PhD?
Sir, my supervisor is another professor, sir.
I thought you were my, who's your supervisor?
Professor Mosala.
That idiot changed your name. You were this thing, you were that Ethiopia thing you had, no?
Yeah.
Okay. So he changed it, that means. See, that is the kind of people we deal with. Anyway, I'll look into that matter. Muslaya knows nothing about anything. Okay.
He has changed it.
Sorry?
He has changed it. He gave me to you.
Originally, you were allotted to me. So now I'm surprised that you say you're allotted to Muslaya. So,
This is new information, sir.
well, I'll work on this. Let's see what happens. You must have heard of this theory. Indians have invented zero. You've heard of this theory?
Yes.
Actually, it's not Indians who invented zero. Usmania University Department of Political Science invented zero, which means that nobody in the department knows anything. So that's why it's a zero. But I'll handle your case, Daniel. Because if he's clandestinely changed it, then I don't like it. I mean, and he'll make your life hell anyway. Now that he's retired, he'll make it a bigger hell. So let's see. Saif, which department are you in?
Me?
No, Saif.
Yeah, political science.
You're in political science.
Yes.
Who is your supervisor?
Professor Naidu Ashok.
Naidu Ashok, another stalwart. Fantastic. What is your area of studies?
India's role in Afghanistan post 9/11.
India's role in Afghanistan. All right. So, strictly speaking, these dogs epitomize that thing that barking dogs don't bite. They sit here in the room and bark. Somebody comes. Anyway, so, but I hope you're aware, Saif, that I think I was saying this was I talking to, no, not to you. I was talking to Sonia. She's also working on Afghanistan. And I told her that you can't change the topic now, but the ground realities of Afghanistan have changed a great deal in the last 1 year. So you'll have to be able to align your thesis with the change in the ground realities of Afghanistan. Our good friend Joe Biden has withdrawn from Afghanistan, and that's not a bad thing, but he's handed it over to the Taliban. And the Taliban is a problem, isn't it? They have in the past created problems for India. I think it was in 1999, one of the Indian Airlines aeroplanes was hijacked. It was supposed to go from Kathmandu to Delhi, but they hijacked it to Kandahar, and that plane was sitting on the tarmac for 3 days, and the Taliban's demand was that India had to hand over the founder of Jaish-e-Mohammed, Masood Azhar. Yeah, Masood Azhar. They wanted him, and our good old defense minister escorted him to Kandahar, handed him over to the Taliban, and well, the Taliban kept their word. They let the aircraft go. I think one person they killed, but and that has been the kind of relationship between India and Taliban. India, when it talks about cross-border terrorism originating um, from Pakistan, they basically also talk about the Taliban. I don't know if you read today's newspaper or was it yesterday's, I'm not very sure. In the Security Council, the uh, Pakistan representative raised the subject of India abrogating Article 370 in Kashmir. And in reply, the Foreign Minister of India, Jaishankar, he very, very curtly told this gentleman that you are a country that encourages militancy. You are a country that gave uh, refuge to the Al Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. You are a country that is hiding Azhar Masood or Masood Azhar. And you are the country that is still indulging in cross-border terrorism. And you are talking about what we have done inside our own country. So he asked him not to open his mouth because he said, this is, you have no moral right. You don't have a morality at all. So you have no moral right to talk about Kashmir and what we did with Article 370. So, the scenario is changing and you should be in a position to change the focus of your thesis as per the things that are evolving in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. Okay, you have to keep your focus on this changes that are happening.
Okay.
Okay, because at one time there was this, what was the president's name? Your president came after the Americans' so-called liberation of Afghanistan. I forget his name.
Muhammad Karzai.
Right. Hamid Karzai it is. And he wanted India to play a positive role in Afghanistan. And there was an entire school of thought within India also, which said that, during P.V. Narasimha Rao's prime ministership, he talked about look east, which is, look at the ASEAN countries for trade, growth, and all those things. So he said, we practically don't get anything from West Asia. So let's look at Southeast Asia and East Asia. So look east was the policy then. And now India is only looking east. So they have not been looking west. And it is because of that that a few disasters have happened. I can't remember the place where that van with bombs came and wiped out a battalion of Indian soldiers. And that is because India had become lax in its security on the western border. It was not done by Afghans. It was done by Pakistanis. So, but then they said, okay, we can't stop looking left. We can't stop looking to the west of our country because we have a problem there. We also have to look to the east, and now we have this wonderful problem on both the frontiers, east and west, with China. The other day or yesterday, there was again a standoff between the Indian Army and the Chinese People's Liberation Army, as they call it. And last year, there was a standoff this time it was on the eastern side of India, which is Arunachal Pradesh. And the previous time it was towards the Galwan area, in Galwan area, which falls towards the western border of India. And China, therefore, for a long time, people said China will not attack India because of the fact that China understands the potential of India as a big market, fourth biggest economy in the world. China is, of course, first or second. I don't think they've become first now. So they won't get into physical confrontation with India. That is what was the general thing that public policy experts like Brahma Chalani were saying. And now you see that we have China attacking us on both frontiers, and also we are aware of the fact that they are building this pearl necklace or necklace of pearls that is supposed to encircle India. So that starts at Karachi, comes into one port in Sri Lanka, where the Chinese are building it, and what's happening in that particular site is not known to anyone, including the Sri Lankans. And this goes all the way up into from Diego Garcia, and it goes all the way to the South China Sea, where they are trying to get control over Vietnam and other surrounding countries like Laos. So that's the string of pearls that they're trying to build. So the only, in fact, defense experts today say that China has bitten off more than it can swallow because of the fact that they also have gone into the East China Sea, not just the South China Sea. They've gone into the East China Sea, and they are trying to take territories back from markets back from Japan. So they are in some kind of an aggressive mode, even with Japan. And you will see that there is a possibility of China having to go and attack Taiwan. Though people say that Taiwan, Taipei, all these are integral, and now Hong Kong also, they are all integral parts of China. But despite their being integral parts of China, there is some kind of a problem between these countries. I mean, Taiwan doesn't accept the idea that it is not seen as an independent country, independent of China. Same problem with Taipei. So you see, therefore, that China, like I said, has bitten off more than it can chew. So it possibly can't fight too many people at the same time right now. But from an Indian perspective, they are building that Karakoram highway, which falls under the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So it's Kashmir is now not just a debate between Pakistan and India. It is also now involving a third party, which is China, because China wants passage rights from the Karakoram highway, not into Pakistan. What will they do in Pakistan? Pakistan is already a friendly nation of theirs. Okay, and Pakistan, which says, oh my God, Muslims are being ill-treated in India, and all that. They make a lot of noise about that. But they don't open their mouths about what China is doing to the Muslims that are in China, those who are called the Uyghurs. The Uyghurs are Muslims, and China is asking them to leave their Islam behind and forcing them. They're all put in military camps, and they are forcing them to eat pork. They are forcing them to drink alcohol. So this is their idea of making the Uyghurs fall in line with the rest of China, to give up their Muslim identity, because China says we don't recognize religious identities and we don't make separate laws for different religions, which is the kind of thing you find in India. In India, every religion has its own, constitutionally, every religion has its own code of personal laws. So there is a Muslim personal law, there is a Sikh personal law. So there are and the Hindu personal law. So if you are looking at India, constitutionally, it has arranged for the existence of personal laws when it comes to populations which are living as dominant populations in certain areas, and there they can make their own laws. Or if it comes to distribution of property and all that, the same law that is applicable to Hindus is not applicable to Muslims or Sikhs, for that matter. So, there is all this changing drama that is happening, because now the BJP says that they are interested in scrapping the personal laws and creating a uniform civil code, which goes against the spirit of the debates of the Constituent Assembly of India. It goes against, just like what the abrogation of Article 370 was, it goes against the spirit of the idea that every religion will get equal recognition. See, there are two definitions of secularism. One is what the Americans follow, which is, come what may, religion will not figure in public life. So even a group of Christians in an office, before they go off for the vacation for Christmas, they don't say Merry Christmas, they say Happy Holidays. Unless you're very close friends, then you go home, pick up the phone and say Merry Christmas. But in public, you will not say Merry Christmas. There is no part of America which acknowledges any religion. They only have on their dollar bill the idea that in God we trust. That is the only reference they make to a God. There's no uh, reference to religion. So this is how America defines its secularism. It's somewhat similar in Europe as well. But when it comes to India, India has always acknowledged its multicultural roots, which is what the Americans and the Canadians are talking about today, thanks to people like Will Kimlicka. And once they start talking their Indian academicians, to keep up with the West, we also talk about multiculturalism. But multiculturalism has always existed in India. When somebody like Jawaharlal Nehru, the first prime minister, says India is not going to get rid of its diversity, it's going to find unity in its diversity. So he was not against diversity, he was not against there being different cultures. So India always had different cultures and all of them acknowledged it. I don't know how it is now, but in our childhood, everybody celebrated everybody's religion. And even today, our Muslim neighbors for Ramzan, they send us something for iftar. And on some festival day for us, we send them something. So in India, there's no problem of multiculturalism being something which stands in the way of building a nation and disadvantages some people like America does. I don't want to go into that right now. If you want, I'll talk about multiculturalism in another day, but not today because that's going to take a lot of time. So I keep telling people, please, we are a multicultural nation. What you people want to do in the name of multiculturalism is convert this into pluralism. Okay, now you might say, what is the difference between multiculturalism and pluralism? The answer is fairly straightforward. You can be multicultural, it's a passive thing. You can be multicultural. Your Muslim neighbors will live like Muslims. You will live like whatever your religion is. At another side, there could be Christians who live their life as per their religion, in their houses, that is. And maybe there are Sikhs who live as per their personal laws and their code. So you see, Gandhi was the one who basically said that our idea of secularism is not non-recognition of religion in the public sphere, because that will disadvantage the minority communities. So he said, our idea of secularism should be equal recognition being given to all communities and religions in the country. And that is why our constitution has these different personal laws. So as long as these personal laws are there, nobody is getting disadvantaged by a dominant culture. Whereas in America, even though the Anglo-Saxon Protestant population is not dominant, the dominant immigrants to the United States of America are actually people who are of German origin. The biggest migrant population to America is Germany. And the way things are going on, in a few years, it will probably be Indians as well. And sorry. So there, by hanging on to the idea that secularism is something that you do at home. You have created a constitution. If you say, in what basis or on what basis have you created your constitution? If somebody asks that kind of a question, what is the answer? Because there has to be some basis. When Hobbes talked about natural rights, people asked him, in what are you premising your natural rights? Who told you that you have natural rights? How do you know these are your rights? So he premised it in natural law. Laws of nature, he said, are not repugnant to laws of society, of human beings. And therefore, it is in the laws of nature which are reflected in the laws of human society. It is in that we are talking about natural rights first, and later on rights given by the social contract. So you always have to show the source. It's all very nice to say that we don't acknowledge religion. But let's give a very simple example. Even in countries which no longer have Christian majorities, we have Sunday as a holiday. Sunday is a day of Sabbath for the Christians. Okay? Now, this is because of our colonial past. Actually, even the Jews, according to Judaism, their day of Sabbath is also Sunday. But since the Christians also said our day of Sabbath is Sunday, they changed their Sabbath to Saturday. Okay? And then they raised a question. The question that they raised was, America has so many cultures. So why is only Sunday a holiday? And the Jews are a very, very powerful lobby because of money that they hold. And the Jews were successful in getting America to declare Saturday as their holiday. So the 5-day week came about because of the pressure that the Jews put on the American administration, saying, why Saturday? Why not Saturday? Why only Sunday? Well, today the big fear, one of the biggest parts of Islamophobia in America is, what if this ever-increasing migrants coming into America say our day of Sabbath is Friday? You should give Friday off to us. This is one of the biggest components that they fear. The whole of Islamophobia. This is one of the things. Brexit happened in Britain. They said they are worried about too many immigrants coming. Okay, too many immigrants coming. And when they were asked, I think it was Boris Johnson, when they asked him, who are all these refugees and immigrants that you're talking about? And without flinching, the answer he gave was, we are worried about the Eastern Europeans coming and settling in our country. It's a small country, and we can't take too much population. So we are worried about basically the Eastern Europeans coming here. Eastern Europeans are the Czechs, the Slovakians, the Serbs, the Bosnians, all these people. But that is not the real reason. The real reason for Brexit is that they fear the immigration of Muslims. They fear the immigration of Muslims. And if there is a study which says that if things continue the way they are, or they were till a few years ago, then by 2035, if I didn't get the date correct, please excuse me, but somewhere around that, Muslims would have become a majority in England or Great Britain or United Kingdom. They would have become a majority. So they didn't want that. So that is the reason why Brexit happened. We don't want anybody coming in. And one more thing, of course, is that their pound is getting pounded on a daily basis. They are no longer this powerful colonial country that they once were. China is going to sit and devour all of them, all the European countries and America. China's plan now is to break the power of petrodollar. And they are trying to do that by restoring what was once there, which was the gold standard. The value of your currency depended upon the official gold holding of the country. That is how the value of a country's currency was defined. That is why it's called gold standard. Nixon, President Nixon and Kissinger, a clever man, very clever man, they said there's no need for the gold standard because most of the countries had mortgaged their gold with the US. At the time of the Great Economic Depression that started in 1929 and went on for years, at that particular time, when nations, European nations, were very, very poor, they went and pledged their gold. They gave their gold to America, and America, in return for that, gave them dollars. Okay, and made the dollar the de facto world currency as in you need to have dollars if you need to trade with each other. Now, let's say India and Venezuela have to trade with each other. And we do, by the way. We buy quite a bit of oil from Venezuela. I'm told that Maria has a big oil field. What's your currency, Maria?
My currency is Bolivar. Bolivar.
Bolivar.
Yes, Bolivar. But right now we have some problems because the dollar, the US dollar, devaluate a lot our currency. So it's like, you know, a kind of explosion of my national currency. But I mean, the cost is very low. The value of my currency is very low in comparison with dollars.
No, so that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Now, why can't India and Venezuela deal in their own currencies? The oil belongs to Venezuela. India wants to buy that oil. Where is America coming here? Why is the dollar in the picture?
The problem is the financial international system, because there are only one way to transfer money in international, between countries, no, in international way, that is the SWIFT system. This SWIFT system, if you want to trade any country wants to trade, needs to do by this financial system that is controlled by British and US. What happened now is that Russia, for example, and Turkey and China, they are designing an alternative system, but only right now working just for example, Russia and China or Russia and Turkey. But this is a project in a long term, not now. Meanwhile,
I am aware of that, madam. Till the Great Economic Depression, the value of currencies depended on gold reserves. Okay, so if you had a certain amount of gold in your country, officially belonging to the government, not private gold, then your currency would have had a certain value. Okay, now what happened is that once everybody pledged their gold and it all went and sat in Fort Knox in America, once it sat there, great people like Nixon and Kissinger, what did they do? They said, listen, you are not able to get your gold back anyway. So why do you need to still stick to the gold standard in order to have your value of your currency determined? You don't have to stick to the gold standard. Let's stick to the dollar. And the dollar got its strength mainly from the fact, and that is the reason why America never will leave the Gulf, Middle Eastern Gulf alone. It'll never leave that part alone, because what the Americans were doing is that they set up trading bourses, and this trading had to be done with the American dollar. Otherwise, you couldn't trade. And they said, where is your money? What is the worth of your money? So that is the petrodollar. What we have today is technically not just the dollar, it's the petrodollar. It draws its power from petroleum trade. As long as we have to buy crude oil from any country, we need to pay dollars. I don't know how many of you know of the story of India. It went bankrupt almost in 1990. Okay, too many years of protectionist policies, not encouraging even indigenous capitalism. Okay, you don't want foreign capital to come in, but at least you should have encouraged indigenous capitalism. No, you don't want to. They became monopolies, and and these were all outdated. And people were buying in 1990s, they were buying the Ambassador car, which was originally called the Morris Oxford. And it was, by the 1990s, it was a design which was 60 years old. Okay, that was the design that we were using. Why couldn't you brought in Maruti, but why didn't you bring in some more competition? Why didn't you ask people to develop new things? We didn't. In the name of self-reliance, we stuck to obsolete technology. So our balance of payments position was we had to import everything and export nothing. So we had too much of imports in the ledger and too little export in the same ledger. So that was the crisis. So that was when Manmohan Singh, who was till then the chairman of the University Grants Commission, he was pulled out of that position by P.V. Narasimha Rao, who was the prime minister. And at that time, India had reserves of foreign currency, which is de facto, de jure, a dollar. We had only 2 weeks worth of dollars. If we didn't get further dollars, we would have become bankrupt. We couldn't buy anything from any country anymore. Simply because of the fact that we didn't have dollars. And our currency would have become like what it became in Zimbabwe once. You know, the smallest dollar denomination in Zimbabwe at one time was a $20 million bill. Can you believe it? One bill worth $20 billion. So if you had to buy, say, 3 mangoes, then you were paying something like probably $100 billion. Almost a similar thing happened in Russia. Why did Russia integrate so peacefully? The inflation in Russia, the ruble went up to 1,500%. So the so-called superpower didn't have money. And people were standing in line for 7-8 hours to buy, not get a dole, to buy 1 loaf of bread. It was rationed. You get only 1 loaf of bread. That's it. So that's where Russia was. So what did India do then? Whatever gold reserves we had, we took them, gave them to Portugal. Because I think Portugal was willing to be a little more liberal in the number of dollars that they would give in exchange for the gold that we were giving to them. And that gold was only recovered in the first decade or second decade of the 21st century. Okay, so India had to mortgage its gold to Portugal in order to get dollars. So that is the power of the petrodollar. Right? Now, if you look at what China is trying to do, is buying up gold. The idea is when you deal with these oil bourses, then you will say, my currency is worth this much more than America. Because if every country today goes back, gives America, if they say, all right, we had pledged so much gold to you in the early 20th century. Now here's your money, give us the gold. The dollar's value will be 0 because America doesn't have the same amount of gold that matches what the dollar's value is. The dollar is an overvalued currency, thanks mainly to it being a petrodollar. Okay, so America won't be able to give people their gold back. They know that. And China wants to hit them there. So China is buying up gold left, right, and center. It wants to kill the petrodollar. So what I'm trying to say is that ground realities change. With the changing of ground realities, you will have to write your theses, especially if it comes to countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan. When you write about Afghanistan, you have to write about Pakistan. If you write about India, you have to write about Pakistan. So please look at all these dynamics. Please look at all these dynamics. You have to be aware of these dynamics. There's no point in saying Hamid Karzai said India will have a positive role to play in the rebuilding of Afghanistan during the times of peace. But Afghanistan is not back in the hands of the Taliban. It's back in the hands of the Taliban, so we don't know what's going to happen. One thing is for sure, and that is India will probably not be in a position to have any constructive relations with the Taliban because already they have been kidnapping Indian engineers working in in Afghanistan, and releasing them only if a certain amount of that nobody tells you, but only if a certain ransom was paid. What is the nature of the ransom? We don't know. That is a secret that is between the two groups, two parties. So you will have to upgrade your knowledge. And my dear Saif, Ashok Naidu knows nothing of this. He knows nothing of this. Not to tell you, Mr. Handino, that Muslaya cannot spell Ethiopia.
Excuse me, sir.
Muslaya cannot
Yes.
spell Ethiopia. Ask him to write Ethiopia. See what he does.
Shall I talk about Ethiopia?
You want to talk about that? No. 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 So we'll see about your supervisor. Anyway.
Okay.
But even
Okay.
otherwise, you can come to me. I'll help you with how to go about doing this. I don't have to be formally your supervisor. You can come to me if you feel up to it. Right? But Mr. Minhaj Khan, I think, Dr. Minhaj Khan, wasn't he the man who recommended you? Daniel?
Hello, sir. Yes.
Professor Minhaj? Did he recommend you to get in touch with me?
Yes, I was communicating with email, but I didn't meet him.
No, but Professor Minhaj asked you to get in touch with me, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So at that
Right.
time only I had told people that this person is coming and his teacher has asked me to supervise Mr. Daniel Handino. So I don't know how you ended up with Muslaya. We'll see about that. Anyway, so now when we are talking about research methodology, if there is an opportunity, we'll have discussions like this. All right. But we shall try to minimize them, not have an entire session like this, but I'm sure you feel you have learned something. I don't know. Or do you think it was a waste of time?
Sir, one thing, even when I was in my country in Ethiopia,
Mhm,
Another supervisor is the assigned supervisor is another individual.
mhm. No,
Then after coming already, I see. Sir,
yeah,
anyhow, we will talk. We will talk with you physically. I will tell you, sir. No
Okay.
need of talking now here.
right, right. That is okay. Not a problem. Okay, so we will continue with research methodology tomorrow. So for those of you who are writing international relations, Saif, especially, I hope you found whatever information I gave you useful, because the ground realities are changing and you can't write a dated thesis.
Okay, yes, okay.
Yeah. So that's why I sat and gave you so much information. All right, I have to start another class. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow
Thank you.
we'll get back to the methodology part, research part, and then to the methodology.
Okay, sure, Professor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
For coming. I
Thank
hope you'll
you.
come tomorrow as well.
Sure. Sure. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night.